Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Connect, president of Universal Accounting Center. This is a show dedicated to helping you build and offer quality accounting services, a phenomenal accounting firm, and getting paid what you're worth. Now, as a show, what we actually try to do here on the podcast is interview experts, individuals that have insights as to what it is we can be doing to work on our business. And I'm hoping that each and every week you'll get the various prompts and indications of here's what you should be doing next. And today's going to be another example of just that. I'm excited to have on the show Gina Cotner. She is the CEO of Athena Executive Services, a firm that pairs virtual executive assistants around the United States with swamped and successful entrepreneurs and executives. Her team of high caliber executive assistants work part-time from home, taking many tasks and projects off the plate of successful people, leaving them free to spend their time where they need it most. Gina has worked remotely for over 15 years on national and international teams. More recently, she has focused on work-life balance, wellness, and personal satisfaction of busy professionals. She is known for developing leaders and having them rise up around her. So welcome to the show, Gina.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a great conversation. You know, I've been using remote staff now for a number of years, and I have a great deal of appreciation for the profession. So I'm excited to dive into this and help my listeners understand what's available to them and what they should know about this type of service. So let's first of all start with a little bit of a backstory. How did you get into virtual assistants? I mean, of all things, how did this actually come about?
Yeah, well, gosh, it's like, how far back do you go, you know? Let's see. Let's go as far back as I worked in corporate America coming out of college for probably 10 years or so. And then around 2006, I decided I was going to leave Big Blue. And I was at IBM. And a lot of my friends were in startups at the time. But I just couldn't quite stomach being in a startup. And I just wanted something big and stable. And IBM was great. And that was a great place for me to be for 6 or 7 years. Uh-huh. But I was in my early 30s. And I don't know if it was just because it was the early 2000s or if everybody in their early 30s goes through some phase called, I'm going to find passive income. And goes to all the seminars in the hotel ballrooms that you buy this book and get this plan and flip this real estate or do this thing, and you too can have passive income. So I was sort of getting interested in like, well, I don't know that all is going to actually be all that real, but something else is possible other than show up at 9 a.m. and log in at my cubicle and go home at 5 o'clock. So I was getting interested in entrepreneurialism. And then in 2006, I did leave Big Blue because I had the just unbelievable plan in place to go open a martini lounge.
Oh, wow.
Because, you know, a martini lounge wouldn't be risky at all.
Not at all. Everybody needs a martini.
Exactly. Right. And I spent a couple years crafting that and was getting ready to like mortgage everything me and my business partner owned. And it's 2008. Tick, 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 tick. We all think back to 2008. And it was like the greatest thing I never did. I just pulled the plug on it at the last minute and said, I can't do this. I'm just not going to do this. And I couldn't believe I said no, but thank God, because then 2009 hit and, you know, all heck broke loose in the finance world. And thank God I hadn't mortgaged everything I owned.
Disaster averted.
Exactly. So that was good. And I was an entrepreneur for a little while. And then I found myself in the middle of a divorce and the mortgage payment wasn't getting paid on the house. And there was just trouble. And I finally just one day woke up and said, I just need a job. I need something like kind of basic. Like I just want to show up somewhere, do something I know I could do, have somebody thank me for it and put some money in my bank account. And that's all I can handle right now.
I can understand that.
Handle this world of sign the next contract so that my mortgage can get paid. So I had a friend that was looking for an executive assistant and I became an executive assistant. And I thought, all right, I'm a pretty good coordinator, project manager person. I can be somebody's executive assistant. And I was. And about 3 months into that job, she sold or got out of the lease of the office space. So this is maybe 2013 or so. And there I am working from home remotely as an executive assistant for the CEO. And I loved it. I thought, oh, this is really, really great. And then I went through another life change, and my father passed away, and that firm that I was working for fizzled out, and I had some time off. And then I was like, okay, I'm looking for the next CEO to go do this remote EA thing for, because I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I found the next CEO to work for, and somebody else in his company said, I'm also going to need you. And I said, well, I'm not available. I'm full. And she said, not a problem. Just find me somebody like you. And she said, you should open this as a business. And I said, I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I've been there, done that. No. And she said, just try it. And so I found somebody that was going to be like me. And her name is Dorian. She now happens to be one of the managers of our firm. And I coached Dorian in how to be a great EA. And this HR manager came back to me again and said, hey, all the guys in sales, they all need an EA. They're all spending way too much time doing admin work. So just find me somebody else like you guys. And by the way, you should open this as a business. And I said, I don't want to. And she said, get over yourself. So that was 8 years ago.
Yeah, what you're describing is a lot of journeys that the listeners I have can relate to. It's one of those things where they didn't necessarily start with the intention of building the empire they have, but lo and behold, they now have a company that they are very proud of. But it didn't start necessarily with this passion drive that was compelling them to go out in this direction. It just, one thing led to another, led to another, led to another. And so I appreciate your story because I do think that many can relate to it. So as it relates to executive assistants, EAs, as you mentioned, what does that entail? Because as people grow their business, obviously there are administrative things or tasks that they're performing that perhaps they're overpaid to do. And there's things that are better uses of their time. What are some examples of what those might be that someone may say, maybe I ought to have somebody else taking care of this?
Yeah. Well, there's what I'll call the garden variety stuff. The garden variety stuff would be somebody who's managing your schedule. Now, everybody's got Calendly links or calendar type links, right?
Yeah,
so a lot of that, some of that is really automated now, which is great. And a great EA will love all the automation they can use, right? Because then they become more of a calendar proofer. Things have all shown up on Roger's calendar all week. Okay, but then is somebody going to look and go, is this a life that Roger actually wants to live?
Yeah.
Or is this just something he's going to have to survive? And does he actually have enough time in the calendar to prep for all these different things that are now somebody has clicked on their calendar, his calendar link, and gotten on the calendar, which is great. But then there's a lot more to managing us as the bosses and the business owners being ready for everything that's on our calendar. And once we're ready for all of that, is there even any time to have lunch and go to the bathroom and all that?
Yeah.
So there's a world of calendaring, a world of inbox management, CRM updating, the whole crazy world of social media, and managing all of that. Maybe you're a small firm, you just need somebody to send out your invoices once a month. Sometimes they do that. Then there's a whole host of just because it's you, like something unique to you or your firm, because many EAs will also handle a lot of stuff in your personal life, which in the beginning sounds a little like, well, I don't need that. Yeah, but that's what your weekends and your evenings your time off ends up also getting consumed with, is planning spring break for your family of 4, which is a half of a Saturday, if not more, right? That somebody's got to go deal with. So all the travel planning, all the expense reporting, all of that. And then again, like I said, things that are just because they're you. Me, I'm on the board of 2 different HOAs. So every now and then I go to my EA and I say, can you just research? Is there actually a law that says we can't have adult only hours at the pool? Like weird stuff that I just don't want to delve into. It is not the highest and best use of me, and I don't enjoy it.
Yeah. So one of the things that you brought up here already, and it's something that I hope to actually address, is you can have an executive assistant taking care of these tasks, the repetitive tasks, the things that perhaps are not needing necessarily your involvement, but you gave some examples of things that you can just have somebody else take care of. But you dove into this idea of the personal stuff being taken care of. And I think this is a huge thing because it's counterintuitive, I think. In accounting, we're looking at how do we stop commingling funds? We're trying to say you shouldn't be paying or taking payments for or paying for things from the business. And yet what we're describing here with the executive assistant is these distractions that are personal in nature could be very helpful if they were resolved. Now, we're talking perhaps remote executive assistants, but it's can you take my car down and get the oil changed? It's something that needs to be done. I don't have the hour and a half to sit there in the lobby to take care of the oil change. I would much rather you go do it. It has to be done. If I do not take care of the vehicle, at some point it will break. But this is a personal thing. So I'm having my executive assistant who's local take care of this for us. So that's an example of still some good use of your time, because it's probably going to be done during work hours, and it's probably going to be taken care of during the work day. So what are you going to do? You're going to, have this person assist you with that. Is that something that you regularly experience? Is this conversation of the commingling of services?
I wouldn't say regularly. It comes over time, because nobody is sitting around with a bunch of money they don't know what to do with and go, well, I'll just have somebody research the various places I could move my mother into when the time comes.
Yeah.
But you start off usually in the business world, and then you realize, I'm giving away things that are not the highest and best use of me at the office. Well, dang, you should know what's not the highest and best use of me at home, because then you often end up spending a lot of your at-home time in those not highest and best. The highest and best use of you at home might be being a great wife, a great husband, going to the kids' soccer games, making something great for the family potluck, going to the park, all these things you envision yourself as if you were like the great dad and the great mom and the great wife and the great husband and the great spouse. Good. Those are the highest and best uses of you. And then there's, everything else. Can we find the cheapest flights for spring break? Or, what Airbnb are we going to go to with the family next summer? Not that you don't want to go, but who wants to spend the time to do that if you don't have to? And frankly, it's a mindset shift for me. Personal stuff, I thought, oh, this is fancy. Like, I didn't even want to say to my friends, I'll have my assistant work on that. That sounded so like bougie. But now I'm like, I'm going to have my assistant work on that. In fact, sometimes if my friends say we should do X, Y, and Z, they will now be like, can you have Corrine work on that? I'm like, yeah, I'll have Corrine look into that, because they know. Even my mom now is like, could Corrine book me a hotel room? Because my mom feels bad burdening me, and she knows I have an assistant. So she'll be like, could your assistant order me this SPF shirt, please? Yeah.
I love it. This is so funny.
It's come over time.
Yeah. So we obviously got to this very quickly in the conversation. So I'm going to make two comments and then we can move on. But I knew that this was going to come up because eventually it does happen. It's the fact that as an executive, there are things that are happening in your personal life that are distracting you from working in the business. And those things are inhibiting you by drawing your time away from things that you really need to be working on. And so if you could free up your time as it relates to these other things outside of the office, now you're able to focus on the things that you need to take care of in the office. So I think it's a natural evolution of all this. So just as a point to this, I have a friend who runs a very successful business, multi-million-dollar business. And one of her favorite things to point out is when she realized she was not being the homemaker that she wanted to be, her house wasn't as clean as she hoped it would be. Best investment, she claims, is that she hired a maid service that came in and cleaned her house. She was just giddy over that. And she felt like the house was clean, that she was taking care of that responsibility within the home, but yet she wasn't needing to do it herself. So she'll rant about that all day long. So let's bring it back into the executive assistant, though. As it relates to the executive assistant, one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with, and this is something I've seen, is once you've identified what to delegate, it's how do you determine whether or not it's a remote person versus someone physically that's able to come into the office? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, some of it has to do with financial. Do you want to? Part of the benefit of having somebody remote is you're not paying for office space. So that could be a big factor, could be not much of a factor. The equipment and the software, and how much are they going to buy, and how much are you going to buy, and how much do they already have? And then I think there's also your management style. A lot of people are curious. They think, yeah, I would like to have somebody who works remotely, but I can't just yell down the hallway anymore. And for some people, that they can't overcome that. They've never they haven't changed their management style to be able to be connected to people working for them in a way that those people are productive, but more so that that they're productive. That's always a big anxiety thing.
Oh, yeah.
With the remote work is, what are they doing? What are they doing now? Are they doing their dishes? Well, they might be doing their dishes. That's not necessarily a problem. Are they changing their laundry? Maybe they are changing their laundry, but that's partly why they like to work from home. So, my business coach calls it yell down the hallway management. A lot of people just are yell down the hallway managers. Hey, Joe, where are we at with that project? So if you don't want to leave that mode, or you don't think you're going to be good outside of that mode, I don't know that I'd go remote. But a lot of people now have worked remotely so long that, like, when COVID hit, people thought, oh gosh, I got to have remote people. And then they came to us in droves because they were like, oh, you already know how to do this. And then we would train them. You'd get an EA, and then the EA would say, okay, Roger, listen, here's what we should do. We should talk every Monday and Wednesday at 9 a.m. Let's have a 20-minute touch base. Listen, hey, let's use Slack, or let's use Asana, or let's use, there's so much software out there about how we can stay connected, and you can regularly get updates on what me as your EA is doing and how the progress of projects are going without having to physically look at each other or talk, in the coffee room.
Yeah. So one of the things I've experienced, having worked with some individuals, is they get to the point that they can read my mind. And I don't know if you have any advice for how do you get an executive assistant to that point where they're familiar enough with the workflow that they eventually get to the point where they can, I don't know if anyone's going to remember this, but Radar on MASH was notorious for when he would go into the Colonel, Henry, he would actually preemptively have things happening just before the Colonel could think of it. So I think that's an excellent example of it if you're all old enough to remember MASH. But The point is the whole point is having an executive secretary or an executive assistant that can think like you and think ahead of you is powerful. How do you accomplish that? How is that achieved? Yeah. Any thoughts there?
Yeah. Well, we charge double for the mind readers, just so you know. Yeah. God, I should go find a clip of Radar. That's such a good example. Yeah, we definitely need to go find that clip. So here's what happens. It's, I'm going to say you get what you pay for. And I don't mean financially. I mean the amount of investment you as the boss are going to invest in your executive assistant. So in the beginning, working with your executive assistant is not an immediate relief. It is not. It's harder. Your life gets harder. Why? You got a brand new person in your world and a brand new partnership and a brand new character, attitude, persona, that you got to work with. And the more you invest in the early days in explaining the projects, the tasks, the why, the how, some of the pitfalls, like more than you feel like you need to explain, the faster they will become a mind reader. And some of those things that you give away in the first couple of weeks, and you think, oh my God, I got to give them my United Airlines number and my Alaska Airlines number, and then this credit card number and my known traveler number, and I just do it myself. Except, next month, you don't have to give them all that. So now that's a simple example, but it's the same thing with bigger projects. If you take the time to make a Loom video that shows, here's how I do invoicing. Allison, please watch this before we talk on Thursday. Then on Thursday, Allison, did you watch the video? Great. What questions do you have for me? Now I'd like you to watch me invoice. Next week, I'm going to watch you do invoicing. Like thorough, good training takes time. But I will tell you, next month, that is going to take half the amount of time. And then the month after that, half that amount of time. And then 2 months later, you're like, Allison, please send invoices. It's done. So it's the more you invest in developing people. Now, I don't care what industry you're in. Nobody invests enough time, in my opinion, in developing people. But that's, when you're dealing with a US-based agency in particular in the VA world, you should expect them, the agency, to do a lot of that development. But then you as the boss, the more patient you are, the more open you are to questions, the more you give people a context for a project or a task.
Love that.
The more they're going to become a mind reader. And now I just say to Corrine, I want to go see my mom. I'm going to leave on this day. I want to return on that day. End of story. It's 20 seconds to delegate.
One of the things that's very helpful here is the fact that you're able to show that it does take time and it's going to be an evolution, and it will begin with more time being dedicated to helping them understand things. But your point of saying that they need to understand the context, the because. We're doing this because. Once they see how it affects the big picture and why it matters, they're going to be a lot more interested in not only doing it and doing it right, but they're going to do it because they understand the ramifications of it, how it ripples through the process simply because of that task they're now performing. So it does give value to the work that they're doing. They definitely will feel as if they're part of something bigger. So that's very important.
The turnkey marketing and sales process to getting accounting clients with confidence. The Universal CRM is in fact a tool designed for accounting professionals to help them automate the process to the point of not only finding potentially new clients, but having meetings and getting new engagements to retain them as clients. This process is made up of using specific tools such as CRMs, email marketing, text messaging, sales pipelines, forms, and funnels, as well as reputation management and social proof, getting the testimonials that you need online to substantiate your skills and services. All of these tools and technologies are leveraged to your benefit using the Universal CRM. Go to the episode description and there get the information you need to take advantage of this today.
So you tapped or mentioned this, and I want to dive into it a little bit more, but it's the idea that as entrepreneurs, as executives, as successful people, there's a lot that's going on that they have achieved because they did. How do you get somebody to relinquish this mentality of, if you want it done right, you've got to do it yourself, and nobody can do it as well as I can? How do you get them to basically acquiesce, okay, I need help. I need somebody to take care of this for me. My spending time on this is a poor use of my time. How do I get to the point where I'm willing to let go?
Yeah. Well, I think you got to look at, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 5 months? I think there's a point at which you got to get your own self disgusted with some of the work you're doing. You kind of got to get your own self sort of nauseated. Like, really? I am going to, in the beginning, what I got nauseated by was like, really? I'm going to keep sending these invoices twice a month, just like clockwork. I mean, I got the whole system dialed in. A freaking robot could do this. Why am I doing this? But I felt like, well, I'm working for home. I own my own business. I'm pretty free. I'm self-employed. This is good. And then one day I was in Maui with my friends. And good news is I can work from anywhere. Cool. Except I'm on a lanai of this beautiful condo in Kaanapali. My friends are snorkeling, and I'm sending invoices. And I was like, I told them that day, I said, just so you guys know, this is the last time I will ever send invoices on a vacation. Now, that was an upstat from, going to the office and the trudgery of what I would call a job. But I was like, never again. So there's just certain moments I think you got to get yourself kind of disgusted. Like, really, do you want to keep finding finding photos for social media posts? That was another thing that I was like, I hate this. This is like a necessary evil. And I hate it. There's so many more people who could do this better and more enjoyably. So, and the other thing that I got really sick of was all the initial conversations with potential staff. So, and the resumes come in, and then I ask, and then they say, and then they ask, and then I say, and it just became like rote. And I thought, if I have to have any more of these conversations, I'm going to puke. So I just thought, none of what I'm doing is rocket science. I just got to get it systematized and turn it over. So some of it is just, you got to get yourself like, what is the highest and best use of you? And what is a great 8-hour or 6-hour day in your world? And what does that look like? Because anything you don't let go of, here's the bad news. You get to keep it.
Well, what you're addressing here is very important. It's the process that needs to now be delegated. Until you can duplicate what you're doing, you're going to be stuck with it. So the moment you can actually document what it is you're doing, the process, you mentioned Loom, there's just basically this idea of, how do I record what I'm doing here? Because eventually you've identified this is repetitive. Therefore, because it's repetitive, I'm doing it daily, weekly. It's the same process, same steps. If I can just document it, I can then delegate it. And so how do I go about that process? Well, first of all, I've got to record this process. Now I can find somebody that I can have duplicate the process. And once they're showing aptitude and the proficiency to do it as I would expect, I can now delegate it. Say, guess what? You're doing great. And it's now your responsibility to make sure that it keeps happening. So that whole process ensures the success of utilizing an executive assistant simply because you're not setting them up for failure because you didn't read my mind. Well, no, you gave them a process and they were able to successfully do it.
Right. Now, I'll give you one caveat that makes that even a little bit easier.
Okay.
You think, well, when am I going to ever have time to document it? You could have your EA, when they come on board, do that. So you could say, Allison, listen, hi, it's great to work with you. I'm going to teach you this process. I don't have this documented anywhere. Will you please, as you are learning this from me, please document it?
Love it.
So then they do it, which I think in some ways might even have better value, right? Then it's written for, or it's comprised for the learner. And so then I think that takes off some of the like, oh, I'm never going to get around to getting things documented. Or I thought to myself, well, I'll tell Allison to go into the finance folder or the XYZ folder in Dropbox. And I thought, oh, if anybody looks in that folder, they're going to vomit. It's a mess.
Yeah.
And I know what to look for because I know what's right amongst the mess. So I had to go get my own house in order. But I also could have delegated that and been like, listen, Allison, I'm going to send you into a folder that's a huge mess. Will you please have it make some sense?
So this brings me to the next question, which is, I know you speak of saving the day, that oftentimes as executives, as firm owners, we're in that mindset of we've got to save the day. It's the putting out the fires and so forth. What do you have to say about saving the day?
Stop it. I have to say what Bob Newhart says. Just stop it. Just stop it. No, listen, if the house is going to burn down, you got to save the day, right? If somebody's done something in your firm that is, got legal ramifications, reputation ramifications, okay, you better get in there and save the day. But when you can, this is going to sound so scary the way I say it, let it burn. Why? Because I delegate something, let's say to Allison, and it doesn't go well. Now, hopefully I've got a great relationship with her. She knows she can come to me with questions anytime, but for whatever reason, something I did not want happened. If I can, I will let it go down, like on their watch, so that they get the experience of, and I hate to say it, but the shock of, oh my God, Gina, I am so sorry. This awful thing happened. And I kind of sometimes, because I'm watching something about to catch on fire, I go, yeah, I thought that might go like that. Okay, well, let's talk about it, right? That's a development issue. Okay, and I don't get in there and lecture them. I ask her, I say, well, where did that go sideways? Where do you think that went wrong? And they'll go, God, I'm so sorry. I was in too much of a rush and I put the wrong number in the wrong place. And then the thing, and I'll go, okay. And then I get to be the good guy. Sweetheart, it's okay. I'm right with you. We're going to get this solved. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know you are. Okay, we'll make sure this doesn't happen again. But here's why. She will never let that happen again. Because I didn't go save the day.
Mm-hmm.
So I like people, it's not like rubbing a dog's nose in it. I don't want it to occur like that. But it is a little like, I want human beings to know that those 10 actions produced that result. Not those 10 actions plus me saving the day then produced a happy result. No, that exact set of actions you took produced that result. So you'll want to make sure you don't do that again.
Very good. So we brought up radar with MASH. We've brought up Bob Newhart. We're getting old here. This is dating us. I want you to understand.
Bring up Taylor or somebody.
Yeah.
Olivia, we got to get way more hip.
Well, it's not the hipness that I'm worried about. It's like, I think like half my audience is going to say who's radar and who's Bob Newhart. But anyways, we're good.
Get your free copy of the book In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable. This is a how-to guide for accounting professionals to work with their clients and actually implement proven processes and systems to ensure that their clients make profit a priority. It is in this book you'll actually learn how to map the business and, in fact, make marketing, accounting, and production a priority within your client's business. You also learn the wisdom pyramid, how to actually take the information you're providing to your clients and effectively effectively use it so that they can make more informed business decisions. This book is designed to help you communicate more effectively with your clients and, in fact, have them see you as their profit and growth expert. Get your free copy now of the ebook today, In the Black, 9 Principles to Make Your Business Profitable.
So here's what we're going to do now. I know you've got a pickleball metaphor, something that you use to actually illustrate running a great business. Share that with us.
Oh my gosh. Well, I do love pickleball. Let's see. I think partnership is really the key. Lord knows I will not play singles pickleball. I got some athleticism, but not that much cardio. So partnership, right? I've got a mixed doubles partner, and I've got a women's doubles partner. And I think the metaphor between pickleball and business is really just communication and partnership. And what pisses you off one day, I really was like, oh man, I got to get myself a new mixed doubles partner. I really was shopping. And then I went and played with him one day and we just crushed it. And I was like, he's great. What is your problem? But it's the same thing in business, right? You just can't assume because X and Y and Z happen. Now, I got to get rid of that staff or I got to get rid of that client. Well, I don't know. Let's just look. Right. And the courage to just keep working things out in communication, whether it's with a client or with a staff member, keep exploring, keep being curious. And it's so interesting how all relationships just evolve over time. So there's something in there about partnership and communication that I think is timeless, whether it's pickleball or business.
Well, here's how I'm going to add to your pickleball analogy. So the two things that I think are also illustrative of the business experience is one, it's something's always flying right at you and you've got to swat it down. You got to swat it back. And so in business, it's just always these things that are coming at you that I think we have to recognize. We've got to be on our toes. We got to be willing and agile to bounce and move in the direction of what we need to take care of in business. And yeah, there's a strategy to it. We can be on the offensive in the sense that we can play the other team. But the point is we also have to be responsive and we've got to be basically agile enough to adapt to the situations. And so from your analogy, I would add those two things simply because as a business, those two things, I think, illustrate well what we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. We're getting up and at the end of the day, we're tired. Why were we tired? Because we're hitting that darn, it's not a ball. What do you call it?
A ball.
It's a pickleball. All right. But It's not a pickle and it's not a ball. Nope. It's a pickleball.
Yeah. Well, we just call it the ball. Yeah.
The ball.
It's a wiffle ball, I guess.
A wiffle ball. There's the better term for it. All right. So in any case, excellent thing there. So I'd like to now talk to you about, you have successful people that utilize your services. You have people that struggle to implement and let go. I would just be curious, what are some best practices or best characteristics of somebody who says, I'm going to pay for this service. I'm going to utilize an executive assistant and I want this to work. What ensures the success of that outcome?
Of the partnership with the EA?
Yep.
Yeah. I think, again, investing in the relationship early on.
All right.
Be available for questions.
Good.
So be an available person. Don't be annoyed when they come to you with a question. You act annoyed when they come to you with a question, they're not going to come to you much more, right? So you want to nurture that. You want to coach and correct often. So you guys have never worked together before. So you want to do your best to skip that honeymoon phase.
Okay.
That whole I got to look good for you. You're going to try to look good for me. We're going to try to look perfect for each other. Ha 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 ha. No, you want to skip right to the part where you've been together for 5 years, right? But they don't know that you might be shy or nervous to give correction or coaching. So you can start off being any way you want. I recommend you start right off being somebody who corrects anything that's not done the way you would do it. Now, you don't have to be a jerk about it. You can be nice about it and say, Allison, listen, gosh, I love A, B, and C, but I got to tell you, there's these 2 things you did. Okay, can't do it like that anymore, okay? You got to do it like this. So the sooner and the more frequently you coach and correct, the more they really are going to become that mind reader. But I think people are so nervous about, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I don't want them to feel micromanaged. Okay, but they want to do a great job. And unless you tell them, listen, this is kind of an 8 out of a 10. This isn't a 10 out of a 10. They're not going to be able to get you to 10 out of 10. And that's on us, right? So that's a very big key, I think. And if you are also caring about them as a human being and knowing about them, their family, their dog, their pets, their hobbies, and you ask as much about that as you do about the projects, then when you have something to correct and say, Allison, what'd you do? Don't do that again. She's not going to be like, he hates me. No, he doesn't hate me because he just asked me yesterday about my dog and my mom and the tournament I was just in. And he actually cares about me as a human being. So I know he doesn't dislike me. I think he just doesn't like that I did this thing wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So now I'm correcting the performance, not the human, but I got to make sure the human knows I love you. You're great. I hired you. I'd be an idiot not to like you. I'm the one who chose you.
Yeah.
So both and, right? Nurture both sides.
Very good. The way I define that is I explain you want to keep things both personal and professional, and they're two distinct things. So if I'm correcting you for something professionally that needs attention, it's not I'm critiquing you as an individual. You're still a human, and I'm still valuing you as that. So yeah, it's that distinction and nurturing both of those. So very good. The other thing I would also throw into this is I would add that, like you were alluding, this is a long-term relationship. So it's not something like you're going into it expecting that this month your life is going to revolutionarily change for the better. I think you were wise earlier to simply point out that it's going to take some time and take some effort. And this month will be a little bit more involved than the next month, But if you have this long-term perspective, it'll basically say, a year from now, my life's going to be so much different and better. And I'll be able to focus and prioritize those things that matter most for my time and my skill set. So like this, this has been a discussion I was looking forward to simply because of the fact that I know that not only have I needed this and have I benefited from working with some very important individuals in my life professionally, but I've seen that also make the impact in others as they've outsourced their emails, as they have people come in and assist with various tasks in the office. It's just recognizing, okay, I can leverage this to my benefit. So this is very good. I'm going to wrap this up and actually kind of tie some things together. But for my listeners, I'd like to point out that Gina does have an offer in the episode description that you can take advantage of. You can learn more about working with a virtual assistant and what it would actually involve to explore hiring someone to assist you with the various things that you have. And like she was indicating, you don't necessarily have to wait for the process to be recorded and documented to employ someone. You can actually have them come on board and through watching and taking notes, actually document and record that activity as well as learn it to then later duplicate and implement it. So definitely some good things there to consider. So go to the episode description and take advantage of this opportunity to learn more about virtual assistants and how you can actually leverage them in your business to maximize your time and work on the things that matter most and need your attention. In addition, what I would like to invite you to do is actually check out in the episode description the Turnkey Business Plan for Accounting Professionals. This is a course designed to actually address those things that you need to be doing to work on your business. I would encourage you to take advantage of this actually as a way of planning and preparing for the new year, just different things that you can actually do to help prioritize what the next year will be as you're working on and growing your business. So check out the Turnkey Business Plan for Accounting Professionals. Now, as a summary of our conversation, there's a lot of little takeaways that I took from this. Clearly, it was nice to hear her evolution into becoming an entrepreneur. It wasn't something intentional and deliberate, and I think so many of us can relate to. Sometimes it's just something that evolves, and lo and behold, that thing you were doing to assist someone else, that thing you were doing perhaps as a hobby, lo and behold becomes something that you're doing as a business, something that grows, thrives, and succeeds with a good deal of care. The second thing that I'd like to point out is with regards to executive assistants, we quickly went into how it evolves eventually, perhaps into personal type things. And I think that's a natural evolution. I do see as a professional, somebody acting as a handler. That's one of the things that I always imagined growing up and being in that position where I was, not only responsible enough, but I was in demand enough that I needed a handler to make sure I was on time to my meetings, that I was prepared for my meetings. Here's this file that you need to go into that conversation. Here's this dossier on that individual that you're going to be meeting with next. This type of handling can be very helpful to make you be the best that you need to be in that situation. And an executive assistant, in one way or another, is perhaps helping you be that best person, whether it be in personal things. I gave the example of taking the car and getting the oil changed. It's taking care of, as she was mentioning, Gina was pointing out, scheduling the Airbnb perhaps. who knows, but it's those things that are perhaps distracting you away from your daily responsibilities as it relates to work. And now you're having someone else take care of those things so that you can actually prioritize and work on those things that need your attention. The other thing that I really appreciate was the conversation that we had about how we can actually document and record things. I'm very much of the opinion that you need to have things documented and have the processes established in the business. But she makes a great point. If there's something that you're doing that you just haven't yet documented, maybe that's the perfect time to hire the individual to come in and record this and finally get it documented for your records. So that was an insightful thing. And then, of course, the pickleball metaphor, clearly seeing that business is a collaborative thing. Working with somebody, communication is very essential and key. And then the last thing she was elaborating on is that idea of seeing the individual that you're working with, both as a person, both personal and professional, and nurturing both sides of those. Excellent talking points, wonderful things to take away from today's conversation. Gina, what more would you like to add as a final thought?
Yeah, I think it's all about partnership. And who are you going to be? What kind of partner are you going to be such that they rise up around you?
Excellent. I love that. All right. So here's what I'm going to do to wrap this up. First of all, I want to thank all of you as listeners. Clearly, this is an episode that we've added to the mix. Why? Because you need to subscribe so you can get the next episode, setting your notifications so that each and every week you're notified as to when we release our next episode, listening to what the experts have to say as it relates to building the premier accounting firm in your area. In addition to that, I want to invite you to go to universalaccounting.com. There, we've actually put together a playlist, highlights of the various conversations that we've had. These playlists consist of things that are perhaps essential to your business right now that you need to binge listen to. These would be things ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, onboarding clients, tech stacks, staff training, mental health, just a variety of things that you need to consider, perhaps that are essential to your success right now. So go and binge listen to those. You can find them at universalaccounting.com. They're in the navigation. Just look for the podcast highlights. In addition, I want to invite you to GrowCon. GrowCon is an annual conference that we have for owners of bookkeeping, accounting, and tax businesses. It's here that you can actually come and hear from the stage those experts that are addressing the key things as it relates to your business. It's where we address the topics that are part of the mapping your business philosophy. It's marketing and selling, getting the clients you deserve. It's accounting, offering quality accounting services. It's production, taking care of those things that need to take place in the office so that you're working efficiently and profitably. These are the topics that we share on the stage. These are the experts that we hear from. You need to come and experience this event. Likewise, you get to interact with your peers, those individuals like you that are running and succeeding with thriving businesses in accounting, bookkeeping, and tax. Come hear what they have to say, make some friendships, collaborate with them, better service your clients from these relationships. You won't regret having come and joined us for GrowCon. So get your ticket now, and I look forward to seeing you there. You also get to meet my staff, the team of individuals that are dedicated to help you be in business for yourself, but not by yourself with Universal Accounting. Now, with all that being said, definitely subscribe, get your ticket for GrowCon, and then if you have any other issues or items that you'd like to discuss as to building the premier accounting firm in your area, things that we've perhaps shared or talked about on the show, definitely give us a phone call. You can reach us at 801-265-3777, or you can visit us online at universalaccountingschool.com. Always remember this, if it's about accounting, it is universal. Take care, have a great day, and be safe out there.